Welcome to the Widowed Mom Podcast, episode 325, The Healing Grief Spiral, a new way to understand grief integration.
Welcome to the Widowed Mom Podcast, the only podcast that offers a proven process to help you work through your grief, to grow, evolve, and create a future you can truly look forward to. Here's your host, Master Certified Life Coach, Grief Expert, Widow, and Mom, Krista St-Germain.
Hey there, welcome to another episode of the podcast. Today I want to introduce you to a tool I created that's been resonating with my coaching clients. I think it will resonate with you too. It's called the Healing Grief Spiral. It's a new way to think about grief integration, one that does not treat grief like a straight line or something to get over. Because if you've ever felt like you're circling back to emotions that you thought you'd already dealt with, if you've ever wondered why it still feels hard when so much time has passed, or you're worried that you're going backward instead of forward, then this episode is for you. So we're going to talk about why traditional grief models, especially the 5 stages of grief, miss the mark, what the healing grief spiral actually is, and how it can help you support yourself without judgment, no matter where you are in grief. Quick little life update for me. If you've been watching these last few episodes, you've probably noticed I am wearing the same clothes because I'm batching. I'm recording this in advance because I want some padding for the move. And by the time you listen to this, the move will be well and done, but I want to get some padding in my schedule. That's the great thing about owning your own business, is that you can set your own schedule. And I want to have a lot of padding before I have to record again. So I'll be sure to give you lots of updates, of course, once the move is over. Right now, as of the time I am recording this, I am still deep in the logistics of the move, making decisions about carpet and paint colors and scheduling the people. It's like a jigsaw puzzle piece I'm putting together between what happens between the time that I close and the time that I move in. I am making Facebook Marketplace listings for all the things that will not be going with me and gathering boxes. Special shout out to Christine, who brought me not 1, but 2 loads of boxes and drove several hours to get them to me. She brought me a load of boxes earlier in the spring, and then she just brought me a load of boxes, and I got to see her and hug her and have lunch with her. And she didn't have to do that. She's probably turning red when she's listening to this. But Christine, thank you. I love you. I appreciate you. You are an amazing human and a gift to the people who know you, and especially Mom Goes On. Okay, let's dive in. You have probably heard of the 5 stages of grief. Denial, anger, bargaining, depression, and acceptance. Maybe you have even tried to compare your experience to those stages of grief. Maybe you have tried to check the boxes. What I want you to know, and I've recorded several episodes on this, and you can go back and listen to them, but just know that the 5 stages of grief was not ever intended to be linear or prescriptive. It was initially a study based on hospice patients, people who were coming to terms with their own mortality, their own terminal diagnosis. It was an anecdotal experience that Dr. Elizabeth Kubler-Ross was noticing, that people would go through a stage of denial, and then they would get angry, and then they would bargain, and then they would get depressed, and then ultimately they would accept their diagnosis. And that's what she noticed. And it was really important in its day because these weren't conversations people were having. That was 1969. She never meant for anybody to compare their grief experience to those 5 stages and make themselves wrong if their experience was different. But somehow we end up using this information against ourselves instead of for ourselves. And if you're like most of my clients and like me, it never really replicated the experience that you were having. Those stages never felt like they fit your experience. And that's okay. Real grief isn't tidy. It is not sequential. It doesn't have a clear endpoint. It's not golf, right? 18 holes and you're done. So let's say, for example, you felt some anger. If the anger resurfaces, it didn't mean you did something wrong. It doesn't mean that you weren't angry enough or you didn't handle the anger that you felt incorrectly or something, right? It's so easy to assume that we're doing it wrong. You're not. You're not experiencing any sort of failure. It's just not a model that is complete. And what's really happening, by the way, every time you're returning to a familiar emotion, one you thought you had dealt with, you are not starting over. You are not regressing. You are not back at the bottom. You are meeting that emotion from a new place, from a new level of strength and awareness and capacity, from a different place in your experience of grief. There's more of it there to be processed, and you're noticing that. And that's a good thing because now you can allow it. Okay, I gotta be careful not to go on a tangent. So what is the healing grief spiral? The healing grief spiral is a framework with 3 reoccurring steps that we repeat over and over and over. And by doing so, we expand and evolve and eventually integrate our grief in such a way that it feels easier, maybe not ever easy, but easier. And we get back to living a life that we love. Okay. So I want you to have the visual. I want you to imagine a spiral. And when we start at the bottom of a spiral, it's very narrow, right? And as we go up the spiral and it goes out and around and it gets bigger and it goes out and around and it gets bigger and it just keeps getting bigger and bigger and bigger and going up and up and up. Do you have that visual in your mind? This is the visual that I want you to have, because we're going to repeat 3 steps. And every time we do, we're going up and we're growing and we're evolving. And it's this upward expansion cycle. So that's the visual I want you to have. And by the way, this is new language around something I've been doing for a long time, but had not stopped to name. This should not feel new to you necessarily if you've been following me for a while or if you've done any of my programs. It's just I'm giving a name to something that I have been doing and had never named before. Now, these 3 steps are not designed to be rigid. They are not designed to be pass-fail. They are meant to meet you where you are, to help you go to the next place you want to go, to help you move through grief in a way that feels compassionate and flexible and sustainable and gentle and doable. Okay, here's how it works. So step 1 at the bottom of that spiral is to settle the storm inside, to calm your nervous system, to allow emotions to flow through. Settle the storm inside. We start here because almost nothing else helps when your nervous system is overwhelmed. When your nervous system senses danger, even if you don't consciously believe that you're in danger, but when your nervous system is overwhelmed, this is the part where everything feels too big, too much, too fast. We either want to fight, flight, freeze, shut down, right? In this moment, thinking does not help. We don't even have access to the highest part of our brain that allows us to think clearly. What we need is to settle the storm. You have been here, right? You know the feeling of when emotions are so intense and you cannot think clearly. I have a coach friend who's fond of saying when emotions are high, intelligence is low. Fairly accurate. Not because we're dumb, but because we don't have access to the highest part of our brain that allows us to think clearly and make good decisions. So first, we need to settle the storm. We need to move our nervous system from that dysregulated state back to a regulated state. We need our threat system, our nervous system, which thank goodness we have it. Thank goodness we have it. It's designed to detect safety and the lack of safety. We need that threat system, if we are actually safe, to believe that we are safe. Now, I am intentionally not going to go into polyvagal theory here because I want to keep this simple and I want to keep it approachable. So I just want us to think about, let's just think like sympathetic, parasympathetic. We'll just keep it simple, right? Feeling unsafe versus feeling safe. Fight, flight, freeze, or fawn, rest and digest. So when our nervous system senses that we are unsafe, we must settle the storm. We must bring ourselves back to a feeling of safety within our bodies. And then emotions can flow through. What does that look like? Could look like tapping. I love tapping. I love tapping because it tells your nervous system that you are safe. And it's so easy and accessible to do. Could look like breathing exercises, some grounding breathing exercises, box breathing for one. Some people love box breathing, where you inhale for 4, hold for 4, exhale for 4, hold for 4. Easy, right? Inhaling and then making your exhale twice as long is another breathing exercise you can do. Again, a gentle walk where our eyes are naturally going back and forth across both sides of the road. We've got that bilateral stimulation, left brain, right brain, very helpful. Letting ourselves cry, letting sadness flow through without shutting it down, right? Without clamping down on it and telling ourselves we don't have time or we have other things to do, but just letting it flow through. There are so many ways to do this. I teach them inside of my programs. It's not about avoiding how we're feeling at all. It's about creating the safety, the presence, the space to allow how we're feeling by settling that storm. So first we settle the storm, we let the emotions flow through. Step 2, once we have settled the storm, is that we can choose thoughts intentionally. And by this I mean, we can gently question the stories that our brain is offering us. Once you have settled your body, once you're back to safety, then and only then do we have access to the highest part of our brain that will allow us to look at our thoughts. Not because we're going to be able to control them or choose which thoughts show up, but because we want to relate to them differently. We want to diffuse from them. We want to see ourselves as the human who is thinking the thoughts, and we want to see the thoughts as the things that we are thinking. Optional. Thousands of possibilities of thoughts that we could be thinking. Our brain offers tens of thousands of them all day long. Some are helpful, many are not. Some move us toward what we want, many move us away from what we want, especially in grief. So thoughts like, I should be further along, or I'm doing this wrong, or I'll never feel normal again, or my best days are behind me, or nobody understands. All of these kinds of thoughts, optional, will feel very real when we are thinking them, and may not be moving us toward the experience we want. Choosing thoughts intentionally, by the way, does not mean forcing positive thinking. It does not mean toxic positivity. It means asking, is this thought moving me toward the experience I want or away from the experience I want? It doesn't mean, does this thought make me feel good? And does this thought make me feel bad? Sometimes feeling pain is moving us toward the experience that we want. Okay, but we have to be able to separate ourselves from our thinking, cognitive diffusion, diffusing from our cognitions, so that we can see our thoughts as objects, so that we can choose thoughts intentionally. If a thought is moving us toward what we want, let's keep it. If it's not, we have the option to question it, to put it back on the shelf and grab another. When we create a little bit of space between ourselves as the thinker and the thoughts that we are thinking, a little bit of space between you and the sentence your brain just offered you, then we can start to get leverage. Now, be forewarned, this is hard to do on your own. This is what I'm really good at as a coach. This is why I will always have a coach. This is why I get coached regularly, because when we are in our own story, it's very difficult to see our story as a story. When we are hooked by our own thinking, it is very difficult to see the thinking as thinking. It will just feel like fact. It's very difficult to choose thoughts intentionally if the thoughts just feel true and we don't question them. So you can do a lot of this and have great success sometimes on your own. And in some very big and powerful ways, there will be thoughts that you cannot see for yourself. And I encourage you to give yourself the gift of having someone else point them out to you. And I am a big fan of coaching, which is why I make my living doing it. All right? So that's step 2. So first we're settling the storm, then we're choosing intentional thoughts. And now step 3 is taking meaningful actions. Doing what matters most. And by the way, taking the next smallest step counts. This is where we reconnect with our agency, even bigger, maybe our sovereignty. So we've settled our body, the storm inside. We've chosen the way that we want to think. And now, because we're doing that, we're better equipped to take action that really matters. And I don't mean performative action, the kinds of things that other people want you to do. I don't mean the things that other people think you should do. I mean action that you define as meaningful. Action that is aligned with what you value in the next chapter of your life that you are creating. So that might mean saying yes to something that you've been avoiding. That might mean saying no to something you don't really want to do. That might mean that you schedule the trip. That might mean that you set a boundary. Sometimes it just means I got out of bed and I brushed my teeth and I took a shower, depending on where we are and what we're going through. So big or small, that's not relevant. What matters is, does it move me toward what I want next? If so, it is meaningful. It counts. Take meaningful action. When action is rooted in what matters to you, not to me, to you, that's what I'm talking about. That is a healing step up the spiral, moving you forward in the direction toward the life that matters to you, that you want to live. So this is not a checklist. We don't do these 3 things as a checklist. We do these things as a spiral. We don't just complete them and then we're done. Over and over and over, we revisit these 3 things. I want you to think about, I'm going to come back to these things over and over and over. I'm probably never not going to come back to these. Honestly, it's not just for grief. It is a great recipe for creating the intentional life that you want as a human. I'm going to settle the storm inside. I'm going to choose thoughts intentionally, and I'm going to take meaningful action over and over and over. And each time you do that, daily, hourly, sometimes in ways that you were not planning on, but over and over you do this. And each time you do, you will meet your grief with more skill, more kindness, more awareness. It's like we are strengthening muscles. We are getting stronger. Okay? This is progress. And again, you might find yourself totally dysregulated. The emotion is super intense. And you thought, well, I thought I was doing just fine. And it would be easy to say, I'm regressing. And I want you to say, no, I'm not. That is not the case. There's just more of this emotion to be felt. All humans get dysregulated. There's more work for me here to be done. There is an opportunity here for me to take good care of myself. I will come back. I will settle the storm again. I will let that feeling flow through. I will gently challenge my thinking. I will choose thoughts intentionally. And then once I have done that, I will take the next smallest step toward what is meaningful to me, a little meaningful action. This is actually what I'm coaching people to do all the time. Again, I just didn't really name it. I just sat down and decided, what am I actually doing here? How can I make this easier for people to understand? This is what grief integration looks like. This is what it looks like to be a human who allows her grief, but doesn't let it define who she is. This is what I teach. So I hope this gives you a way to respond to grief waves, grief grenades with skill instead of shaming yourself for them. I hope this gives you permission to let go of the idea that you're supposed to be further along than you are. I hope this helps you create some momentum if you feel stuck without burning yourself out. I hope this helps you connect to what matters most to you, even when things are messy, right? Even when things are chaos and messy and they feel like they're out of control. These 3 things are things we can do. We can learn how to settle the storm inside. We can learn how to choose thoughts intentionally, and we can take the smallest next meaningful action. We really can do that. Showing up for yourself again and again. Your grief will change. You will change. But we're not doing stages. We're not getting to a phony fairyland called acceptance. We're not checking boxes. We're being real humans in grief. All right? If you have felt like you're back where you started, if you have worried that you're regressing just because you had an intense emotional experience again, if your brain is telling you it shouldn't still hurt this much, I want you to remember and tell yourself this. You are a human experiencing grief. You are a human experiencing grief. Focus on the 3 steps of the spiral. With each turn, you have a new opportunity to settle, to notice, to choose what matters. You are building a set of skills, some muscle memory. You're taking cumulative actions that add up over time. I hope it helps you. If it resonates with you and you want to not just learn about it conceptually, but actually practice using it in your life, go to coachingwithkrista.com. You can learn all about the programs I have for you. This is the kind of work I love to do. This is the kind of work that actually moves the needle. It moves us forward without pretending that we're supposed to move on. Okay? That's what I have for you this week. If this episode helped you think about your grief differently, if it gave you something useful to work with, I would love for you to leave a review or send it to someone who you think would benefit. All right? Remember, I love you. You've got this. Take care, and I'll see you next week. Bye-bye.
If you like what you've been hearing on this podcast and want to create a future you can truly get excited about even after the loss of your spouse, I invite you to join my Mom Goes On coaching program. It's small group coaching just for widowed moms like you, where I'll help you figure out what's holding you back and give you the tools and support you need so you can move forward with confidence. Please don't settle for a new normal that's less than what you deserve. Go to coachingwithkrista.com and click Work With Me for details and next steps. I can't wait to meet you.